You know, some company stories are all about the products they make. Others are about the profits they earn. But every once in a while, you find a company whose story is really the story of a nation. Its struggles, its ambitions, and yeah, its triumphs. Today, we're going to dive into the incredible journey of Tata Motors, a company you just can't separate from the story of India itself. I mean, just think about that question for a second. How does that even happen? It sounds impossible, right? Well, the answer is this amazing mix of vision, resilience, and maybe just a little bit of sweet revenge. So let's get under the hood of this incredible story.
To really get Tata Motors, you have to go way back. I'm talking all the way back to the beginning, to the birth of modern India.
Now, this timeline, it's not just a boring corporate history. It's basically a mirror of India's own evolution. The company's focus changed right alongside the nation's needs. First, it was about physically connecting a new country with steam trains in 1945. Then, it was about giving a new middle class their own homegrown car in 1998. And now, it's all about powering a sustainable future with EVs.
So before they ever thought about passenger cars, Tata became the literal backbone of the country. Their trucks, they weren't just machines. People lovingly called them Chota Hathi, or small elephants. These super reliable workhorses that built India's roads, powered its factories, and carried its economy for decades.
But just building the nation's trucks, that wasn't enough. A new leader, Ratan Tata, took over in 1991, and he had a vision that, frankly, a lot of people thought was completely crazy.
Yep, that's what the critics called his plan. You have to remember, India's economy was just opening up. All these global giants were flooding in, and in that environment, the idea that an Indian company, a company known for trucks and trains, could design and build a passenger car completely from scratch, it just seemed like a terrible idea. And yet, they actually did it. The Tata Indica wasn't just another car on the road, it was a statement. It was proof that India could do more than just assemble things. It could imagine, design, and engineer for itself. And that promise, more car per car, it really hit home. A whole nation's pride started rolling out on four wheels. But having pride and making a profit are two very different things. The journey was absolutely brutal, and it led to this moment of total humiliation in Detroit that would end up changing automotive history forever. So the Indica had a really rocky start. The car division was just bleeding money. So a humbled Ratan Tata and his team got on a plane, flew to Detroit, and were ready to sell their dream, their passenger car business, to the Ford Motor Company. Just imagine that for a second. You fly halfway across the world to try and save your dream, and that's what you hear. The meeting was, by all accounts, humiliating, and Ratan Tata decided right there on that flight back to India that he was not going to sell. He was going to make this work no matter what.
And he didn't just make it work. He turned the whole business around. And then, fast forward 9 years. The year is 2008. The global financial crisis hits. And the tables didn't just turn, they did a complete backflip.
$2.3 billion. That's how much Tata paid to buy two of the most iconic car brands in the world, Jaguar and Land Rover, from a Ford Motor Company that was now on the verge of bankruptcy. The circle was complete. It's reported that when they signed the deal, Bill Ford actually said to Ratan Tata, "You are doing us a big favor by buying JLR." It is without a doubt one of the greatest comeback stories in business history.
But even with these huge global luxury brands in his pocket, Ratan Tata's vision was still firmly planted back in India. It was a vision that wasn't born in a boardroom, but on a rain-slicked street.
You see, Ratan Tata was famously moved by the sight of a whole family, like 4 people, balanced precariously on a single scooter in the pouring rain. For him, this wasn't about capturing a market. It was about solving a real human problem. And that question became an absolute engineering obsession.
The result was the Tata Nano, the world's cheapest car. Now look, it wasn't the commercial success they'd hoped for, but what it did was introduce this incredibly powerful idea to the world, frugal engineering. The idea that innovation isn't always about adding more features. Sometimes, the most brilliant move is to figure out what you can cleverly take away.
So think about what they learned from these two completely different projects. The Nano taught them all about frugal innovation. JLR taught them about world-class design and quality. Well, when you fuse those two things together, that's the DNA for their modern success. That's what created this whole new forever range of cars that are safe, stylish, and just plain good.
And all of that brings us right up to today, where, once again, Tata Motors is defining what the future of driving in India looks like.
I mean, just look at this. We're talking over 70% of India's entire EV market. 70%! Tata Motors isn't just leading the electric vehicle revolution in India. For all practical purposes, it is the revolution. They basically created the market, and they're the ones driving it forward.
And so, the whole story comes full circle. The company that started out building the steam engines that connected a new nation is now building the electric engines that will power its sustainable future. The technology is worlds apart, but the mission, it's been remarkably consistent all this time.
Which kind of leaves us with this one big thought. When you look at this entire journey, from locomotives to luxury cars to electric vehicles, you really have to ask yourself, is this just the story of a company, or is it actually the story of a nation constantly redefining what it's capable of?
In the end, maybe their own tagline says it best. Tata Motors has always been in the business of not just making vehicles, but of connecting aspirations.